Hello everyone friends, now is the perfect time to learn how to make aromatic gingerbread cookies to please yourself and your loved ones with a wonderful taste and fill your home with the caramel aroma of spirit. We've been working with this recipe for many years and have improved it many times to achieve the perfect result. Today we want to share our knowledge with you. For the ginger dough preparation, we will need the following ingredients: 280 grams of honey, 170 grams of sugar, 10 grams of butter, 1 teaspoon of soda, 2 eggs, 3 teaspoons of cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of ginger, half a teaspoon of cloves and half a teaspoon of nutmeg, and you will also need 680 grams of flour. Let's start making the dough. Put honey and sugar in a pot with a thick bottom. Turn on the high heat. Don't stir right away, otherwise the sugar might lump together. Don't mind the amount of our ingredients as we're cooking a big batch right away. Though, in your case, such a big pot isn't necessary, but it shouldn't be small either, as the mass greatly increases in volume during the process. The recipe we provided is already cut down. As soon as the honey started to heat up and became more fluid, which takes a few minutes, you need to stir everything well. Remove the stuck sugar from the edges and leave it like that until it boils. Once we see bubbles, we stir again and reduce the heat below medium. We have an induction stove and we set it to 2. We boil the syrup for about 5 to 8 minutes and wait until almost all the sugar dissolves. Boiling the syrup is essential, as if it isn't allowed to boil properly, the color of the gingerbread won't be golden. While the syrup is boiling, let's prepare the spices. We really love the Cicoria brand. In our opinion, they have the tastiest cinnamon out of everything we've tried. By the way, the gingerbread aroma result may also vary from the spice manufacturer.
Put all spices in one container. We have here
ginger, cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg. Cinnamon and ginger are the main spices in gingerbread. Replace the spices in gingerbread with others. Also, we prepare butter. It should be of a high quality with 82% fat, and at this stage, you need to weigh the soup in a separate container. As soon as we see the syrup actively boiling, we start stirring, making sure to thoroughly scrape the bottom. With a spatula, we always use a silicone spatula because it is much more comfortable to use. By the time it boils, the sugar has almost dissolved, and from this moment we let the syrup boil for about 2 more minutes, after which we will add soda. So we're now turning off the fire and adding oil. Soda, the mass will start to increase greatly in volume, so you definitely need to take a larger pot, otherwise everything will run onto the stove. We have an induction stove, and after turning off the heat, the surface becomes cool, but if you have an electric hob, put it away. Remove the pot from the surface to prevent further dissolution. Heat. At this stage, you need to stir actively. Under the influence of hot mass and soda, the dough acquires a golden caramel color. The shade, and the more you will mix before adding butter, the darker it will turn out. We definitely shouldn't stir for too long, as the gingerbread might end up a bit bitter. Add all the spices. Stir a little and you can add the butter. It can be taken straight from the fridge or at room temperature, it doesn't matter.
as we are
For a large
doing.
batch of dough, we always resort to using a mixer. You can also do this process with a hand mixer directly in the pot, or you can mix it with a spatula. The result turns out the same. We knead until the butter is completely dissolved and combined with the dough. Now we'll need to add eggs, but don't ever add eggs to a hot mixture, as they'll just cook. We need to wait for the temperature to drop before we add the berries. You can just leave the pot on the table for about 20 minutes and wait until the mass stops being hot. Periodically come over and stir. Since we're using a planetary mixer, we never turn it off and mix the dough at medium speed, waiting for it to cool down. Temperature. It's been about 10 minutes and the mass has dropped up to 42 degrees. But you can also go by feel. The main thing is that it is not hot. We begin to add eggs and we set it to mix. If you have already worked with a gingerbread napkin, If you have leftover pieces of dough from the previous kneading and they have been rolled out many times, you can keep them, but add to the fresh knead at this stage. Lately, we've been doing just that because gingerbread made from dough rolled out many times doesn't look nice, and we just add to the new knead. We mixed everything for a couple of minutes, and now we are adding sifted flour. If you have a small number of ingredients, you can add them all at once. Our flour doesn't fit all at once, so we add half, stir a little, and then introduce the remaining. We do this stage with a mixer as well, but everything can be mixed by hand. Now, mix well to collect everything from the bottom and the sides of the container and incorporate it into the dough. Our mixer has a silicone spatula, so everything is perfectly collected from the walls. The old models we used before do not have a silicone surface on the attachment, so we periodically turned off the mixers and manually scraped off the stuck ingredients of the walls. If you have a hand mixer, stir it a little, then knead it by hand, otherwise you could break the mixer. And if you are mixing directly on the table with your hands, to prevent the dough from sticking to the table surface, use a scraper. We've mixed everything well, and the dough should be of this consistency. It will be very sticky and elastic, no need to add extra flour. While the dough is soft and warm, roll it out and cut from it. It's going to be unreal to shape it, so it needs to be well cooled. We transfer it into bags and roll it into a sheet right in the bag. Enjoy your meal, bye. We roll the dough a bit at this stage and keep it in a bag because after cooling it becomes quite solid and it will be hard to roll it later. Of course, you can roll it out after it cools down, but if you do this with a soft dough, you will greatly simplify your task in the future. In this state, we put it in the refrigerator for a minimum of 2 hours. An hour. We usually do this process in the evening, and for major holidays, we prepare a week in advance, and so it is stored in the refrigerator until baking. While our prepared dough is cooling, let us show you what it should look like after cooling on another already prepared variant. It seems very tough at first, and to roll it in this state, you need to apply. So you can leave it at room temperature to soften a bit, and while we're preheating the oven to 180 degrees, the dough has softened. Dust the rolling pin and surface with flour and start rolling a small piece. It's most convenient to use this.
What are you forging?
You need to roll out to a thickness of about 5 to 7 millimeters. We cut out the figure we need using a mold. If you don't have the right mold, you can print a liked picture and cut with scissors. With a knife, we cut out ready-made shapes of little dragons and snowflakes we bake on silicone. You can also use siliconized parchment paper. The baking time will depend on the size of the figure. We baked such a figure for about 10 minutes. Small ones are baked from 7 minutes. You need to look at the appearance of the gingerbread and adapt to your achievement. This is what the ready-baked pie looks like. The gingerbread should be nicely browned. If you see an uneven, darker color in the center after cooling, if the color is uneven, it means your product isn't fully cut. After cooling, it's best to put the gingerbread in a closed container to keep it soft. If you have low humidity in your house, and in the cold season as a rule it happens, then without covering, the gingerbread will dry out and become like a cookie. Also, if desired, the surface can be covered with icing, the recipe of which is already on our channel. We'll leave the link in the description. By the way, you can prepare a large batch of dough, like us, and partly freeze it. The dough can be stored in the freezer for several months, and it's best to defrost it in the fridge. The video is coming to an end. We tried to show you the details of making gingerbread dough. Don't forget to like for our efforts. Like, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't lose us and miss new useful videos. The video was with you at the Sisters Pastry Shop. See you in new clips.